Check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
It's Patrick Christies tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there short and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christies tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. It's 9 p.m. I'm Patrick Christies. Tonight. Whoopsie, foreigners are responsible for a quarter of all sex offences.
I mean, you don't know that I'm going to even do it. You don't know. I may do it, I may not do it. I mean, nobody knows what I'm going to do.
Trump teases Iran's Ayatollah.
The noes are left 137. So the ayes have it, unlock!
Is Labour just the party of death? First it was the elderly, now it's babies. What's going on? And...
Oh, Lucy, is it? Yes. Hello, my name's Cheshire, please. Look, it's Stefan, 2 seconds.
Oh, yes?
Yeah, thank you.
Jeremy Hunt calls for Lucy Letby's evidence to be revisited. Plus... I'll be joined by former Home and Foreign Secretary James Cleverly because Labour are going to expand the migrant detention centre in his constituency, and this is awkward.
You get through.
Smooth. On my panel tonight, it's the Director of Popular Conservatives, Mark Littlewood, Tory MP, Esther McVeigh, and broadcaster Nina Mishkov. And what's all this about?
Please don't do this. Allow us to march to Gaza.
Oh, and of course, do not miss Patrick Christie's tonight, late edition. It's the best newspaper review show in town, 11 p.m, all the way through until midnight. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Is Labour now the party of death? Next.
Good evening, it's 2 minutes past 9. I'm Katie Bowen in the GB Newsroom. Israel and Iran continue to attack each other this evening. That comes as President Donald Trump has reaffirmed tonight that he has not yet made a final decision on striking Iran, adding that he believed Iran was close to developing a nuclear weapon before Israeli attacks began. The United States is now working to evacuate US citizens from Israel by arranging flights and cruise ship departures. President Trump adding that a deal with Iran could still happen. The Iranian Revolutionary Guard has has said that the skies over Israel are open to Iranian missiles and drones. President Trump's latest intervention comes as Sir Keir Starmer chaired a meeting of the Emergency Cobra Committee to discuss the security situation in the Middle East. A Downing Street spokesman has said that the Prime Minister spoke to the Emir of Qatar this evening, and both echoed the need for de-escalation and diplomacy. Also breaking tonight, the foreign ministers of Germany, France, Britain and a top EU diplomat will hold nuclear talks with an Iranian counterpart on Friday in Geneva. More on that shortly. Back at home, inflation eased slightly to 3.4% in May, according to the Office for National Statistics. It rose to a 14-month high of 3.5% in April after a raft of bill increases hit households. Inflation was driven last month by increased food, furniture and household good costs. Chocolate prices in the UK rose at the fastest pace on record. The Chancellor says there's more to do, while Shadow Chancellor Mel Stride says the inflation rate is deeply worrying for families. Footage has been released which shows the British sole survivor of the Air India plane crash attending his brother's funeral. Air India have also said today that the sole survivor, Vishwas Kumar Ramesh, has been discharged from hospital. He attended the funeral of his brother AJ, who died in the London-bound plane that crashed after takeoff from Ahmedabad on the 12th of June, killing at least 270 people. The chairman of Air India said today that preliminary findings from the investigation should be available in 30 days, although there were no red flags or maintenance issues with the Boeing Dreamliner. Transport Secretary Heidi Alexander has described the HS2 project and its management as no less than a litany of failure. The government has announced that the opening of HS2 will be delayed beyond the planned date of 2033. Heidi Alexander told Parliament there's no reasonable way to deliver the high-speed railway on schedule and within budget. The project has already suffered repeated delays and soaring costs despite being scaled back. Nigel Farage has called for HS2 to be scrapped and for the money to be spent upgrading railway lines across the entirety of the United Kingdom. And the Princess of Wales pulled out of attending Royal Ascot today as she continues to find the right balance following her battle with cancer. Princess Catherine is said to be disappointed at not attending the famous social and sporting occasion in Berkshire with her husband and the King and Queen. Those are your latest GB News headlines. Now let's go back to Patrick.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Britain has sleepwalked into becoming a country that kills babies. Yesterday, this happened.
The noes are left 137. So the ayes have it, unlock.
Just 2 hours of debate, that's it. Britain has now decriminalised abortion. A woman can decide that she doesn't want the baby, even at the moment she is having the baby, and that is no longer infanticide. In fact, it's celebrated.
Who recognise that reproductive rights are the foundation of social justice know that now is the time to act. If we are not free to control what happens to our bodies, we cannot be free in the rest of our lives. And those who are playing politics with abortion play politics with equality accordingly.
So people like that who claim to be feminists, OK, will say that this is in some way a good thing for women's rights, right? But where are they when it comes to issues like Afghan men raping women in Britain? Where are they on that? Is multiculturalism more important than that, is it? So, in Britain, you will be arrested for this.
That's what you're stood for. Is you standing here part of the protest?
No. I'm not protesting.
Are you praying?
I might be praying in my head.
So I'll ask you once more, will you voluntarily come with us now to the police station for me to ask you some questions about today and other days where there are allegations that you've broken public space of protection?
If I've got a choice, then no.
OK, silently praying in your own head outside an abortion clinic, arrested. But you will not be arrested for taking the life of a perfectly healthy baby while you're 8 months and 3 weeks pregnant. It does make me wonder whether or not Labour is now the party of death. It was Labour MP Tonya Antoniazzi who proposed the abortion stuff, and it was Labour's Kim Ledbetter who proposed the assisted dying bill, which is, let's be honest, mostly for old people. So reforms Richard Symes made, what I thought was quite an interesting point, actually. Does this mean that mothers from certain cultures where a boy is massively preferable will start aborting girls later into pregnancy? Now, according to The Spectator magazine, just 3% of women believe abortion rights should be extended to birth. Apparently, just 3% of Labour voters agreed with it as well. But remarkably, 8 Conservatives voted in favour of this. To be fair, Nigel Farage also missed the vote. But here we go again. 379 members of Parliament have managed to decriminalise abortion with almost no debate, no real discussion, no public backing, it seems. They don't really represent us, do they? Let's get thoughts from my panel this evening. We have got Director of Popular Conservatives Mark Littlewood. We've got Tory MP Esther McVeigh, broadcaster Nina Mishkov. Esther, I'm going to start with you on this, if that's all right. What do you think about what we saw in the House of Commons yesterday? Is it basically the legalisation of infanticide?
I thought it was horrific to see people cheering that we are now, and when you decriminalise, you are allowing abortion up to the moment of birth. Now, I'm pro-choice, so, I understand that, and there will be reasons people will need to have an abortion. I get that. But a week of 24 weeks was set, and that was because, actually, a child is viable from 22 weeks. So, actually, there were calls not so long ago to reduce that level, actually, to come more in line with other European countries. So I think it's wrong. I think it was the wrong action to take, and I think Labour is very much going in the wrong direction. I think they are changing what it means for the value of life. I think they are devaluing life itself. Yes, I do, as a party. They might not think about it, but they seem to certainly have got themselves in a pickle.
Mark, where are you on this? I know you're quite an old-school Liberal.
Yeah, I mean, devilishly difficult, this whole topic. I basically agree with what Esther has said. I've never been able to work out when I think life begins. I don't think it's at conception, but I think it is a lot earlier than 9 months, right? So I think my broad approach would be something like up to 14 weeks, more or less on demand. I mean, I think you need to show that you can't raise the child or you'd be psychologically harmed. Much after that, I think there need to be pretty big extenuating circumstances, mother's life in danger, child unlikely to be born remotely healthy, that sort of thing. So, but the difficulty here as well is, I mean, how would we treat a mother who is reckless and has a miscarriage? Is that murder? You know, if you throw yourself down the stairs, for example, 8 months pregnant, would we charge the woman with murder?
It's about intent, isn't it?
It's sort of about
because
intent.
That's the same as murder. So in
would
order
it then
to
be
prove
manslaughter if you were just reckless because you were drunk? Because it's very difficult. But I basically say up to 14 weeks, no questions. After that, massive extenuating circumstances.
Where has this really come from? There was no public clamour for it. We weren't all out on the streets really talking about it. We weren't having huge discussions on shows like this, which has really got its finger on the pulse of the nation, I think, most evenings. And yet here we are now at 9 p.m. tonight talking about the fact that in Britain you will not go to prison if you kill a baby even just as you're birthing it.
First of all, I think men and women have entirely different attitudes to abortion. I think women empathise more, they understand it and they understand the reasons why, and far more than men. Men can have really highfalutin objectives about it. Secondly, I find the idea of a child being aborted at 8 months, 9 months, absolutely abhorrent. But that is actually, forgive me, not going to happen. Nobody is pregnant until they're 8 months and think, oops, I forgot to have an abortion, I'm going to do that now. Now, the whole point of having this legislation passed means that women will not be criminalised for having an abortion. None of you are old enough to remember the times before the pill and before abortion was legal. I wasn't actually old enough. When I was 15 when the pill came in. I was when abortion was decriminalised, slightly older. Before then, the people who were criminalised and prosecuted for abortions were the backstreet abortionists. And the thing was, before that time, you have to understand, women would do it to themselves with knitting needles.
Okay, but we're not there now, are we?
No.
We're not there.
But let's not forget, women must have a choice. They must have a choice.
I don't think they should.
No, but nobody's questioning that. Well, I think there's two things. I think, one, the reason this has come about, because there's only been 3 prosecutions since this law was in 1869, so it wasn't like there was lots of prosecutions, but where the investigations had come from and where a lady did actually, and she was 8 months pregnant, and she went and took the pills, which were meant to be for just 10 weeks. This is the case. This is a live case. This is what she did. And they'd all seemed to go horribly wrong during lockdown, where people said, I want the pill that you're allowed to take up to 10 weeks. And then you could get it not seeing a doctor, and you could get it over the counter, and they called it pills in the post. And this is where it's gone wrong. And instead of Labour saying, we won't do that anymore, we're not in lockdown, you don't need to get those pills over the post, stop there. Not what they've done for those women who did break the law. That's what it is.
Well, let's look at what countries that have actually done this. Australia did this in 2008. Each state has a different law, but it's more or less, 22 weeks and then after. So what happened when they decriminalised it in 2008, which is a long time ago, is that it peaked slightly, but then it's actually gone down to before. It's gone down to before the levels that were there.
Surely a termination at 8.5 months.
No, but
it should be criminal unless there are massive extenuating circumstances, mother's life in danger, for example. But the other thing here, Patrick, you commented on this in your introduction. 2 hours of debate on this in Parliament. I mean, Esther said she couldn't vote because she didn't really know this was coming up. This is appalling. The parliamentary schedule should be allowing several days for a discussion of something like this.
But the thing is, what you've got now with Labour, if they've got such a massive majority, it is a problem. They can come up with an idea and have it voted on the floor of the House, and you're quite right.
But what have they used it for?
Well, they've used it for nonsense.
This is the thing, that Labour have used their absolutely whopping great big majority to force through something that basically allows you to kill a baby.
That's not... that is actually not going to...
But it was happening. They were getting the pills by post. It's not a one-off. It was many people have done it. There were 100 investigations.
Tell me how many over 8 months or 6 months?
Well, one's too many, isn't it?
Well,
one's too many.
But these women need help rather than locking up, for heaven's sake.
Wow.
In France last year, a Catholic country, they voted, and 85% of the population agreed. They voted to enshrine the right for a woman to have abortion in the Constitution. They're the first country in the world.
Not to 9 months.
But we're not talking about that. We're not talking about that. What you're saying, and I'll tell you where I think there'll be lots of things.
They've decriminalised it.
Look, there's a couple of things that will happen here. I do think because a doctor can't help you if you get the...
the doctor can still be prosecuted.
A doctor can be prosecuted. They can't help you. So if you are late going for an abortion, nobody can help you, but because the doctor could be prosecuted. So I think you will see a return to your back street abortions. Because now people will say, well, we won't stop at 22 or 20 weeks. We will carry on. I think it's a retrograde step to backstreet abortions and devaluing the life of human beings.
Women do not take this lightly. I'm very lucky. I've never been pregnant. I've never had to make that choice.
But Nina, you can't base the law on that.
No, I'm not basing it on what I think.
Well, they have to just change it.
Most women, I think, it is a very traumatic situation, and they need help rather than locking up.
Is there any truck at all with the Richard Tice comment there about one of his concerns about all of this is potentially something a bit cultural? Yeah. I mean, from what I have been told, is that there were times in certain parts of the country where they weren't particularly keen to reveal to you early on what the sex of your baby was, because there are certain cultures where it's massively preferable to have a boy, and therefore the rates of abortion would increase if it was a girl. Could we see something like that happening again here?
Well, we could, and that again goes to my thing that you need very strong extenuating circumstances to justify it after a certain period of time, 14, 16 weeks. And I've discovered that the baby is a girl is not grounds for a termination at any point in the pregnancy. So, yes, I think we could see, if you like, those sort of lifestyle, cultural preferences being life and death decisions, and those should not be considerations in having a termination.
They should not be considerations. I completely agree with you, but you have to understand it is a woman's body. It is her.
Well, there's a clash of rights, isn't it?
Okay, put it the other way. Say the woman is giving birth to a woman, and the woman is already now formed as a baby who's living and breathing. That's two women's rights.
No right. Men have no right at all.
OK, well, look, it's an interesting start. I appreciate everybody at home or listening where you are. It's an incredibly depressing subject. However, we are where we are, aren't we? It happened yesterday in Parliament. It's going to affect Britain going forward. We do have to talk about those things, unfortunately. But loads more news coming your way. We are counting down to your best summer so far, 54,321 quid in cash. Here's how you can be in it to win it.
We're kick-starting summer in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 with your chance to win our biggest cash prize to date, as there's an incredible £54,321 in tax-free cash to be won. What would you spend it on? A brand new car, the holiday of a lifetime, or just the chance to sit back, relax and remove some of those day-to-day financial stresses? £54,321 in tax-free cash has to be won. For a chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, good luck, everybody. Coming up,
looking at the countries that we have visa arrangements with and asking ourselves, are there enough preventative measures?
OK, so 17,000 thereabouts illegal migrants have arrived in the UK so far this year. So is it time to start restricting visas for countries that refuse to take them back? I'll find out. But before that...
Hello, Lucy, is it?
Yes.
Hello, my name's Chester, please. Look, it's Stefan, 2 seconds.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, former Health Secretary Jeremy Hunt has joined the chorus of voices calling for killer nurse Lucy Letby's case to be re-examined. So, is she innocent? That's next.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. That's State of the Nation every Monday and Tuesday at 8 o'clock, only on GB News, the People's Channel.
At GB News, we are proud to stand for you, for the Britain you love, for the communities you live in. That's what makes us the fearless champions of Britain. Its voices and its values. Because we, at GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our viewers and listeners. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christies tonight. Well, coming up, the absolutely horrendous case of an Afghan asylum seeker who doesn't think he's done anything wrong raping a 15-year-old schoolgirl because in his home country, that kind of thing's normal. But first, is Lucy Letby innocent? It's time now for the head-to-head. Well, Jeremy Hunt has become the latest high-profile politician to call for the Lucy Letby case to be re-examined. So the former neonatal nurse was convicted for murdering 7 babies and attempting to kill 7 others while working at the Countess of Chester Hospital in 2015 and 2016. But since her conviction in August 2023, a panel of leading medics have concluded that poor medical care and natural causes were the real reasons for the deaths of those babies. A whole host of leading politicians, like former Culture Secretary Nadine Dorries, senior Tory MP David Davis, have come forward to claim that Letby is innocent. And now the former Health Secretary, Jeremy Hunt, has added his voice to that chorus. Writing in the Daily Mail and citing that expert panel I just told you about, Jeremy Hunt said, "This analysis raises serious and credible questions about the evidence presented in court, the robustness of expert testimony and the interpretation of statistical data. That is why I and parliamentary colleagues such as Sir David Davies now believe the time has come for these concerns to be addressed as a matter of urgency." Well, look, obviously, I'm asking that question, aren't I? Is Lucy Letby innocent? Let me know your thoughts. Go to gbnews.com/your say. Going head-to-head on this now are the founder and CEO of Freedom from Abuse, Marilyn Hawes, and the criminal defence lawyer, Paul Britton. Thank you very much. Great to have you both on the show. Marilyn, I'll start with you. Is Lucy Letby innocent?
I don't know. You don't know. Nobody knows. The only person that does is her. But the point is, I mean, I don't want to condemn anyone. I'm sat on the fence because there is, to me, if you're in a court, it has to be beyond reasonable doubt. And there is doubt. This guy, Dr. Dewey Evans, who was the expert witness, who decided after 10 minutes only of looking at paperwork, oh yes, there's blood over the liver, that means this is foul play, is not agreed with by 14 global renowned early years neonatal consultants who independently looked at these cases and decided there was no foul play. Then you've got Dr. Michael Hall, another retired paediatrician and neonatalist, said he was very concerned about the fairness of the trial and the validity of the medical evidence provided, but he wasn't allowed to give his evidence in the court. So I just don't understand it. And Dewey Evans then said, oh, I now realise the air in the stomach was due to the fact the baby hadn't opened its bowels. And he's supposed to be an expert witness. I don't know. But what I do think is there is doubt. And this woman's being banged up for 15 life sentences. But above all, I really feel for the parents. I have lost babies. I understand how that feels. And it's terrible.
OK. Paul, well, how do you respond to what Marilyn said there? It certainly appears that there is quite a lot of doubt.
Well, no, there isn't, Patrick. There's so much in that. I'm sitting here biting my lip, and the list of names that you reel off, none of them were there for a 10-month trial. And what these people are doing is they are picking up on the smallest piece of evidence, which is the medical evidence. What they're not considering, and we talk about beyond reasonable doubt. Well, I'm sorry. 12 jurors, Lucy Letby was judged by her peers. That was her right. And 12 jurors found that she was guilty. And then the judge penalised her, punished her with 14 whole life sentences. Judges don't do that if they too weren't convinced by guilt. So I don't believe that there can be any doubt on whether or not she was guilty. We are talking about, everyone's trying to isolate this into one piece of evidence, the medical evidence. There was more than just medical evidence. There was forensic scientists, there were witnesses, there were parents, there was patterns of behaviour. There was a note in her own writing, in Miss Letby's own handwriting, saying, I am evil, I did this. Okay. Why does everyone not talk about the overwhelming evidence? And all we want to do is talk about one piece of medical evidence that was a small fraction of a 10-month trial. And just to put that, Patrick, wait there, final point. Just to put that in perspective, it was one of the longest trials in all of criminal history in this country.
OK. All right, fair. Well, go on, Marilyn. How would you come back to that, then?
Well, of course it was, because there were so many babies and each one had to be heard. But, you know,
you just said that he spent 10 minutes over one piece of document. So it wasn't 10 minutes, was it? There was 15 counts.
I listened to you. Please have the courtesy to listen to me. Where's the forensic evidence? Where is the forensic evidence? One guy, Dr. Javi Jairam, he's escalated suspicions purely because she was on the ward. That ward had infections. There were very pre-prem, very sick babies there. Pre-prem, very sick babies have a habit, sadly, of dying of liver failure and other medical conditions. There was infection on that ward, which has never been actually spoken about. There were sanitary conditions on that ward. There were, there were doctors that were not available.
All of these issues were well ventilated at the trial.
Excuse me, I'm talking.
Yeah, you're not making any good points.
Would you just listen,
it was
please?
all very well ventilated at the trial, which you weren't there. You're jumping on a bandwagon. In this country, we don't have trial by Twitter and YouTube.
But we do, unfortunately, Paul, we do have some cases of miscarriages of justice. So what I'll do is we'll
Patrick, we have such a small number of trials that are miscarriages of justice.
Fair enough, I get that, but I'll go, Marilyn, just wrap it up relatively quickly, and then we'll go to Paul, please. Thank you.
There have been miscarriages of justice. Juries are only able to listen to what they hear. They are normal members of the public. They are not, I wouldn't want to be there in their role at all hearing this, but only she knows the truth. But there are flaws here. There are things. I don't know whether she's guilty or not. I don't know. I wouldn't want to call it.
I'll come in now. So, Paul, look, one of the things that it did shine a light, one of the accusations is that actually the quality of maternity care in Britain as a whole is actually so poor and potentially was at that hospital that a lot of other doctors on that ward might have been quite happy to jump on the idea that Lucy Letby was this evil serial killer because it got a lot of them out of trouble. How would you respond to that?
Patrick, these are not new issues. These issues were ventilated at the trial. We had King's Counsel representing both parties. They weren't on an uneven footing. They were on an even footing. There was cross-examination of all of these points over a period of 10 months. It's not a case where things were missed or someone was... And the point that jurors can only listen to what they hear, I mean, there's just no point in that at all. I mean, of course they can only listen to what they hear. But also in court, they would have been shown diagrams. They would have been shown the medical evidence. They would have heard the cross-examination from King's Counsel on both sides and all of the evidence. It's not just these little snippets that people pick up from social media. I mean, you could not possibly be seized of all of the facts, all of the issues that were ventilated over a 10-month period in 5 minutes. It's just ridiculous.
Where's the forensic evidence? Where is the actual forensic evidence? Because a lot of it seems to be circumstantial. How can you negate 14 global renowned NATO consultants who have said there was no foul play? How can you just throw that out the window and then say, oh, well, the jury are right. The jury who don't have any expert medical ability to actually make that decision.
It's not a medical conference.
Juries make wrong decisions. Judges make wrong decisions. Are you really telling me that judges get every decision right? Oh, please. Welcome to my world. I'll tell you, they get many wrong.
Patrick, this is not a case from the 1980s where we used archaic, not very reliable medical evidence, right? It's a very recent case. I think the medical evidence is sound. If there were these 14 experts that now have come, 14 experts out of tens of thousands of medical experts at special... There are 7,000 registered in the United States alone. There are hundreds in this country, and you've mustered together 14. I'm sorry. That is
Well,
not a reason
for
a retrial.
I didn't muster anyone.
I've just given you the numbers. I've just given you the numbers.
All right, we've got to go. We've got to go.
You don't know the truth any more than I do.
Honestly.
Okay.
I think people's hairs will be standing on end when they hear
Maybe.
that
I don't care.
Lucy Letby
I've enjoyed it. And thank you very much. We're going to have to go because I've got to squeeze in a load of other stuff. But thank you very, very much. That is, of course, Paul Britton there and Marilyn Hawes. Take care. Right, who do you agree with? G on your say says she's innocent. No forensic evidence, no eyewitnesses, just a hospital desperate to dodge blame, right? Lynn says every one of those questioning Letby's guilt weren't there or aren't medically qualified to make this call. I believe she's guilty. So basically, that debate is just raging on in the inbox. Anyway, so loads more coming your way, including this.
We will be ending the costly use of hotels to house asylum seekers in this Parliament.
So the government promised to shut down those migrant hotels. However, are they going to just expand ones like RAF Wethersfield? Well, the former Home Secretary, James Cleverly, that's in his constituency, and he joins me live shortly. But before that...
Looking at the countries that we have visa arrangements with and asking ourselves, are there enough preventative measures?
So we're about to hit that record of 17,000 illegal migrants crossing the Channel in a single year. But is Keir Starmer actually going to restrict legal visas for countries that refuse to take them back? Stay tuned.
Be nice to escape the grey.
Clear skies, here we come.
As clear as our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
The heat wave across Portugal, Spain and France is going to continue to build for the next couple of days. We're looking at temperatures in the mid to high 30s, possibly 40 Celsius for a few places. And with that heat, there's a risk of some hefty showers across Portugal and Spain. Some thundery downpours are possible. A few showers also possible further east, affecting Italy and into Greece and Turkey. But actually, through the outlook period, as we go towards the weekend, it's looking largely sunny for many and staying pretty hot.
Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Good evening. I'm here with your latest GB News weather update, coming to you from the Met Office. We are now in a heat wave, and we're going to continue to see these heat wave conditions for some lingering right through the weekend. It's all because, well, high pressure is across us at the moment, and that's bringing a lot of sunshine for many places, and that's leading to some pretty high temperatures of building. But taking a look as we go through tonight, and there's a bit more cloud across some parts of Scotland, central into northern Scotland as well, with a little bit of drizzly rain across far western parts. Away from this, though, lots of clear skies and lots of dry weather to be had, and temperatures not dropping a huge amount, so it is going to be a particularly warm night for many places, some places holding up in the high teens Celsius. So it is going to be a fine start to the day for most, and across the bulk of England and Wales, a sunny start, just a bit of cloud towards some eastern parts of England first thing. Heading further north and across Northern Ireland and Northern England, lots of sunshine here through the morning. Meanwhile, for Scotland, a cloudier picture here, particularly across central and western parts, a bit of rain at times. Meanwhile, across the north, away from Orkney and Shetland, where there will be a few showers, many parts of northern and eastern Scotland having a bright start. But that cloud across central parts of Scotland does feed a little bit further northwards, so northern and eastern parts turning a bit cloudier as we go through the afternoon. Elsewhere and across the rest of the country, well, it is looking largely sunny, and with that sunshine, temperatures rising a few degrees higher than today. We're looking at highs of around 30 Celsius for some places, so feeling pretty hot indeed. With that hot weather, though, there's the risk of some showers, and these are going to affect some western parts as we go through Friday. Can't rule out a bit of thunder, but most of us will avoid these showers, particularly towards the north and east, where it should stay dry and pretty bright, if not sunny. We have higher temperatures forecast for many as we go into the weekend, particularly across central and eastern parts, peaking around 32 or 33.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. That's State of the Nation every Monday and Tuesday at 8 o'clock, only on GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christies. Tonight, coming up, after the government announced plans to expand migrant accommodation in his Essex constituency, former Home Secretary James Cleverly will be joining me live in just a few minutes' time. But first, after another grim milestone in the Channel, 17,000 illegal migrants have arrived in the UK. The Prime Minister told GB News that he's considering stripping countries of visas if they refuse to take back illegal migrants.
Looking in a much more smart way at the way we deal with visas, perhaps more transactional, you might say, which is looking at the countries that we have visa arrangements with and asking ourselves, are there enough preventative measures?
Let's look at the detail. Out of the top 10 nationalities of illegal migrants who crossed the Channel in 2024, the government only has a new returns agreement with one of them, that's Vietnam. The PM said that those who refuse to take back migrants will face visa sanctions, but many of the nationalities most likely to arrive in the UK illegally are not among the countries that typically get visas from the government. So would this policy really work? It would appear probably not. Joining me now is the Director of the Centre of Migration and Economic Prosperity, Stephen Wolfe. Stephen, is this just the Prime Minister drawing something up on the back of a fag packet because he realises he's screwed?
I think what he's trying to do is due to the desperation that they have by recognising the numbers coming over this year, Patrick. We're already up 40%, potentially looking towards 52,000 people coming towards the end of the year because we're at 16,800 who've arrived. So they're desperately trying to find a way of changing the narrative. And they've looked to the United States. The United States successfully managed to push back on a number of countries by saying we're going to cancel your visas, particularly in Colombia. You remember the Colombian president said to Trump, we're not going to accept anyone back. And he said, right, you're not allowing anyone into the country. So I can understand that he's seen it work in the United States, but you've made a very important point. And that very important point is the vast majority of the people that are coming to us across the Channel are not with countries that we really deal with a lot of visas for. So I think it could be window dressing.
Well, quite. And it's also chasing his tail, isn't it? Was this really the plan to smash the gangs all along, was it? By reducing the illegal visas? I mean, this just doesn't really make any sense. I mean, even if you accept the lie, really, that there are lots of brilliant people... I think Matthew Saeed in The Times went to exactly the same place that I went to in Calais, right? To the same warehouse full of Sudanese migrant men. And miraculously, Matthew Saeed found a brilliant engineer from Khartoum. Well, his ability to discern that man's qualifications and indeed his brilliance was remarkable, really, from a warehouse full of Sudanese men on the fly. But, you know, surely we'd want those people. Why can't those people just apply legally? Why are they breaking into Britain?
Well, they can apply legally. That's the whole purpose. We have a migration advisory committee that enables businesses to bring in engineers from Sudan if they are qualified enough and capable of doing so. So maybe Matthew should help the chap apply for a business who will do it properly rather than having to give him £15,000 from Sudan to get to a people smuggler and be trapped by them for years, having to pay the debt back to these people smugglers, which stands at over £1 billion that people smugglers have made since 2018. The reality of the fact is the vast majority of these young men coming over aren't engineers, aren't doctors, aren't super scientists or the greatest footballers of the future. They are generally people who are not being able to do great work in their own countries, but understand that they can get benefits, housing, as we're now seeing across the country, and being able to use that money illegally in illegal businesses and send money home.
I mean, the other factor in this, Stephen, just lastly, is that we are now nearly a year into Sir Keir Starmer's premiership, and this is a brand new thing he's going to try. It's almost like he didn't have a plan to begin with, isn't it?
It is, and I think that's where the desperation. I was talking to some former Labour Party policy gurus yesterday who started off with full of excitement when Labour came in, and some of them are now leaving and going and finding jobs in the proper world, as they like to call it. But they understand that their ideas about controlling migration and stopping the boats is a failure. So here we are, they're trying to copy the Americans, but they can't do it if we don't use serious power and deterrence.
It's something that they would have slammed President Trump for, but now they're going to do themselves. And actually, when I get onto my discussion at 10 p.m, there's a lot of this going about because, unfortunately, people on the left now, Stephen, are being confronted by cold, hard, factual reality. Like the amount of foreign men in Britain that are actually sex criminals, the amount of Afghan people who, on account of the fact that you can marry kids in their country, think it's OK to rape kids in ours, and all of this stuff, and they're having to wake up to that. But, Stephen, thank you very, very much. Stephen Wolfe there, who is the director of the Centre for Migration and Economic Prosperity. Well, talking of which, coming up at 10 p.m. I mentioned stats. Here's the stats. Foreign nationals are responsible for a quarter of sex crimes last year. They are more than twice as likely to be responsible for sexual assaults as the rest of the British population. So are we importing violence into our streets? And this horrific case of an Afghan asylum seeker who raped a 15-year-old girl and still doesn't think he's done anything wrong. But before that,
we will be ending the costly use of hotels to house asylum seekers in this Parliament.
Former Home Secretary James Cleverly joins me live. He's not happy about a base in his constituency. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christies here.
I'm Michelle Duke, Britain's News Channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News, anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's News Channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's News Channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's News Channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very, very easy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's News Channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's News Channel.
Welcome back. So, coming up, have we imported violence against women and girls onto our streets? And it's just a ridiculous case of an Afghan asylum seeker who still doesn't believe he's done anything wrong by raping a 15-year-old British schoolgirl. But first, large migrant accommodation sites, including the Wethersfield Air Base in Essex, are set to be expanded under new government plans to end the use of asylum hotels by 2029. So, the Prime Minister has pledged to close the Wethersfield Asylum facility during last year's election campaign, but it is understood that this site is now among those under consideration to actually expand. Locals campaigned against the site, claiming they had been made to feel unsafe. Some reported that asylum seekers were rioting, attacking moving cars, and even defecating near their homes. Well, joining me now is Conservative MP Sir James Cleverly, whose Braintree constituency includes Wethersfield, former Home Secretary as well. Thank you very much. Tremendous to have you on the show. So what are you going to do to try to stop this expansion then?
Well, when I was Home Secretary, and indeed before I became Home Secretary, I made the point that Wethersfield was not the right place for this asylum accommodation centre. You can kind of see from the aerial photographs that you showed in the clip, this is a very isolated site in the middle of rural North Essex, has a very narrow road network coming towards it. It is fine for its original purpose, which was a Second World War airbase. It is no good as an asylum accommodation centre. I said that at the time. Look, I was overruled. You don't win every argument in government. But I've also made the point that expanding it would be completely wrong. And the Labour government have completely lost track of illegal migration. They thought it was going to be easy. The numbers are now up by over 30% year on year. And in order to claim some kind of headlines, they're now saying that they're going to close asylum hotels when they've got no plan to reduce the numbers. And I don't think that the good people of Wethersfield should bear the brunt of what has basically been a real failure by the Labour government.
So we went to the Home Office and they said this to us. They said, quote, there are currently no new plans to further expand the Wethersfield site. Do you think that's a lie?
Well, when you look at what government departments say, you need to look at the detail. They said there are currently no new plans. And I'm really uncomfortable because that gives them a little bit of fudge factor. The Prime Minister said that he was going to close Wethersfield. Under the Conservatives, when we were in government, there was a closure date of April 27. They're now saying there are currently no plans to expand the site, but the numbers of arrivals are going up. They say they're going to close the hotels. They have got to put those people somewhere. And unfortunately, they are leaving themselves wiggle room when it comes to Wethersfield. And I'm really worried that they're going to renege on their promise at the election and increase the number of people at Wethersfield.
OK. Look, clearly, you don't need me to remind you that initially this all did happen under the Conservatives. Do you wish that Sajid Javid just turned that first boat back now?
Well, it was never as easy as that. We never pretended it was going to be that easy. And anyone that comes on your show and anywhere else and says, oh, it's really easy, all we have to do is do X, Y, or Z, either doesn't understand the situation or is lying to your viewers. This is a difficult thing to deal with, but the Labour government, almost in their first act upon taking office, was to scrap the Rwanda scheme that I spent a huge amount of time negotiating with the Rwandan government.
Did you think that Rwanda scheme was batshit? Because you were accused of saying that at the time.
Yeah, I was accused by Yvette Cooper, who clearly has a vested interest in undermining my position. What I said was that the focus on that to the exclusion of other things was wrong. And I always made the point that we should be looking to, yes, deter people from getting here and having somewhere that we can send people that we can't send home, whilst also making sure we get a grip of the supply chain. So my criticism of Rwanda, as much as it was an over-reliance on it by some of my Conservative colleagues. And I stand by that. Yeah. It was always going to be part of a wider range of actions. But the Labour Party scrapped it. They also scrapped other things in the Legal Migration Act. So they're trying to achieve more by doing less. And unsurprisingly, the numbers are going through the roof.
Fair enough. One thing I must say I am surprised about is that I actually have to apologise for a certain word I used there. I was not aware that that was in the Ofcom banned list of words, so apologies to anyone who might have been offended. But anyway, just to nudge us on slightly, look, Kemi Badenoch is, of course, now your dear leader, and the latest polling actually is pretty good for the Tories. You've gone from being pretty woeful to now being second. Do you think she's doing a quite good job? I don't think you were the biggest fan of her initially, were you?
Well, I don't know where you got that from. Kemi is a long-standing both friend and colleague. And the fact is she won the leadership contest fair and square. And I'm a big boy. I take that on the chin. She is ferocious when it comes to defending the things that really matter. And I completely back her in that. It is an incredibly difficult job, and anyone running for the leadership understood that, me included. But what we have seen is that rather than being distracted by the noises from the periphery, she has set about attacking the Labour government on their failures. She has been really consistent, for example, on those rape gangs. And whilst the Labour government were trying to kick that into the long grass, she has stayed focused. And because of that focus, she pushed the Labour government into commissioning the Casey review. That review has bumped the Labour government into a full national inquiry, which is what Kemi was campaigning for right from the get-go. So it will take time, but she is proving her worth every single day and getting the Labour Party on the back foot and showing the Conservatives are the only real credible opposition to this woeful, appalling, inept Labour government.
All right, fair enough. Just one last quick one with you. Sorry, the other big news, of course, is that we're not entirely sure whether or not President Trump is about to kill the Ayatollah, along with the Israelis. If America and Israel do get involved in Iran, in fact, that's the live skyline above Tel Aviv now, should Britain be helping them? Because Labour have got a bit of a problem here when it comes to support for Israel, haven't they?
Well, Labour are all over the place, and it's really telling that they keep telling us about how concerned they are about this, how concerned they are about that. Frankly, I don't give a damn about the Labour Party's emotional position. What I want to know is, are we going to defend democracy? Are we going to be active in ensuring that Iran doesn't acquire a nuclear weapon? So yes, of course, we need to talk to Israel about credible de-escalation. But the reason this happened is because Iran was pursuing a acquisition of a nuclear weapon. And this is a country who has, in their constitution, the eradication of Israel as a nation state, which is, of course, completely unacceptable.
Thank you very, very much. That is Sir James Cleverly, their long-standing Conservative MP, former Home Secretary, of course, and Foreign Secretary, whose Braintree constituency includes Wethersfield, which is the site of that big migrant base. Thank you very much. Loads more coming your way. You're not going to want to miss this outrageous situation that's taken place. An Afghan asylum seeker raped a 15-year-old schoolgirl, said that actually in his own country that kind of stuff was normal, and he's not sorry. Stay tuned.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed Home Battery Storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good evening. I'm here with your latest GB News weather update coming to you from the Met Office. We are now in a heat wave and we're going to continue to see these heat wave conditions for some lingering right through the weekend. It's all because, well, high pressure is across us at the moment and that's bringing a lot of sunshine for many places and that's leading to some pretty high temperatures of building. But taking a look as we go through tonight, and there's a bit more cloud across some parts of Scotland, central into northern Scotland as well, with a little bit of drizzly rain across far western parts. Away from this, though, lots of clear skies and lots of dry weather to be had, and temperatures not dropping a huge amount, so it is going to be a particularly warm night for many places, some places holding up in the high teens Celsius. So it is going to be a fine start to the day for most, and across the bulk of England and Wales, a sunny start, just a bit of cloud towards some eastern parts of England first thing. Heading further north and across Northern Ireland and Northern England, lots of sunshine here through through the morning. Meanwhile, for Scotland, a cloudier picture here, particularly across central and western parts. A bit of rain at times. Meanwhile, across the north, away from Orkney and Shetland, where there will be a few showers, many parts of northern and eastern Scotland having a bright start. But that cloud across central parts of Scotland does feed a little bit further northwards, so northern and eastern parts turning a bit cloudier as we go through the afternoon. Elsewhere and across the rest of the country, well, it is looking largely sunny, and with that sunshine, temperatures rising a few degrees higher than today. We're looking at highs of around 30 Celsius for some places, so feeling pretty hot indeed. With that hot weather, though, there's the risk of some showers, and these are going to affect some western parts as we go through Friday. Can't rule out a bit of thunder, but most of us will avoid these showers, particularly towards the north and east, where it should stay dry and pretty bright, if not sunny. We have higher temperatures forecast for many as we go into the weekend, particularly across central and eastern parts, peaking around 32 or 33.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed home battery storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Imagine having an extra £1,000 to spend each week for an entire year. £54,321 in tax-free cash could be yours. Cash to spend however you like. £54,321 in cash could be landing in your bank account this year. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. That's State of the Nation every Monday and Tuesday at 8 o'clock, only on GB News, the People's Channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our viewers and listeners. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
It's 10 p.m. I'm Patrick Christies. Tonight. As an Afghan's found guilty of raping a 15-year-old schoolgirl, it emerges foreigners are responsible for a quarter of all sex offences.
I mean, you don't know that I'm going to even do it. You don't know. I may do it, I may not do it. I mean, nobody knows what I'm going to do.
President Trump might kill Iran's Ayatollah, might not though. And this is awkward.
So you get threatened.
No.
Do you think the Prime Minister knew who South Korea's leader was? On my panel tonight is the Director of Popular Conservatives, Mark Littlewood. We've got Tory MP Esther McVeigh and broadcaster Nina Mishkov. And what's all this about?
Please don't do this. Allow us to march to Gaza.
And, of course, at 11 p.m, it's time for Late Edition. It's the best newspaper review show in town, 11 p.m. until midnight. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. An Afghan we imported is not sorry for raping a schoolgirl. Next.
Good evening, it's 1 minute past 10. I'm Katie Bowen in the GB Newsroom. Israel and Iran continue to attack each other this evening. That comes as President Donald Trump has reaffirmed tonight that he has not yet made a final decision on striking Iran, adding that he believed Iran was close to developing a nuclear weapon before Israeli attacks began. The United States is now working to evacuate US citizens from Israel by arranging flights and cruise ship departures. President Trump adding that a deal with Iran could still happen. The Iranian Revolutionary Guard has said that the skies over Israel are open to Iranian missiles and drones. President Trump's latest intervention comes as Sir Keir Starmer has chaired a meeting of the Emergency Cobra Committee to discuss the security situation in the Middle East. A Downing Street spokesman has said that the Prime Minister spoke to the Emir of Qatar this evening and both echoed the need for de-escalation and diplomacy. Also breaking tonight, David Lammy is travelling to Washington for talks with his US counterpart, Marco Rubio. Footage has been released which shows the sole British survivor of the Air India plane crash attending his brother's funeral. Air India have also said today that the sole survivor, Vishwas Kumar Ramesh, has been discharged from hospital. He attended the funeral of his brother AJ, who died in the London-bound plane that crashed after takeoff from Ahmedabad on the 12th of June, killing at least 270 people. The chairman of Air India has said today that preliminary findings from the investigation should be available in 30 days, although there were no red flags or maintenance issues with the Boeing Dreamliner. The family of a grandmother who died after contracting rabies said that she was scratched, quote, very slightly by a puppy while visiting Morocco in February. Yvonne Ford's family said she only became ill 2 weeks ago, starting with a headache and resulting in her becoming unable to walk, talk, sleep or swallow. Ms Ford from Barnsley, South Yorkshire, died last Wednesday. The UK Health Security Agency said that there's no risk to the wider public because there is no evidence rabies can be passed between people. Elsewhere, Transport Secretary Heidi Alexander has described the HS2 project and its management as no less than a litany of failure. The government has announced that the opening of HS2 will be delayed beyond the planned date of 2033. Heidi Alexander told Parliament there's no reasonable way to deliver the high-speed railway on schedule and within budget. The project has already suffered repeated delays and soaring costs despite being scaled back. Nigel Farage has called for HS2 to be scrapped and for the money to be spent upgrading railway lines across the entirety of the United Kingdom. And the Princess of Wales has pulled out of attending Royal Ascot earlier today as she continues to find the right balance following her battle with cancer. Princess Catherine is said to be disappointed at not attending the famous social and sporting occasion in Berkshire with her husband and the King and Queen. Those are your latest GB News headlines. Now let's go back to Patrick.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Foreigners are committing loads of sex crimes in Britain and the establishment can't cover it up anymore. Foreigners were convicted of a quarter of all sex crimes in Britain last year. New stats show 15% of sexual offences, including rape, were accounted for by foreign nationals between 2021 and 2023. A further 8% of convictions were recorded as unknown nationalities. Well, they're not British then, are they? So foreign nationals, of course, make up just 9.3% of the population. So yet again, they are overrepresented. Now, today, this happened. An Afghan asylum seeker was found guilty of raping a 15-year-old schoolgirl in Scotland. He doesn't accept that he's done anything wrong, and he claimed that in his home country, child marriage was common, so he might have got a bit confused. Well, shock horror, we import people from countries with very different values to us. Countries where women have no rights, and then those people rape schoolgirls because they don't think there's anything wrong with it. Look, we've all been saying this is happening. Here's some more stats for you. Foreign nationals are 3 times as likely to commit sexual offences as Brits. This week, this was revealed.
Secondly, Baroness Casey reports that she came across cases involving suspects who were asylum seekers. We have asked her team to provide to the Home Office all the evidence that they found, so the immigration enforcement can immediately pursue individual cases with the police.
So it looks like asylum seekers are involved in grooming gangs as well. Then this week, this also happened.
And on the key issues of ethnicity that I'd asked her to examine, they identify clear evidence of over-representation among suspects of Asian and Pakistani heritage men. And she refers to examples of organisations avoiding the topic altogether for fear of appearing racist or raising community tensions.
No. So, hang on, you're telling me that Pakistanis are overrepresented in the rape gangs? Gosh, all these things that we were told weren't true. And it turns out they are, aren't they? And they can't hide it anymore, which is why stuff like this is happening. The Justice Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, has called for reform to the ECHR now because, well, we can't deport people without reform. So we need reform now, do we? The Prime Minister now wants to block visas from countries that refuse to take back illegal immigrants. The people who are now in government are the same people who were calling us all racist for saying that foreigners were disproportionately committing sex offences in Britain. Well, there we go. And do we really trust them to sort it out now? Let's get towards my panel. We have got Director of Popular Conservatives Mark Littlewood. We've got Tory MP Esther McVeigh and broadcaster Nina Mishkov. Yeah, Mark, so basically this week alone, in fact, it's only Wednesday, isn't it? So far, in the last 3 days, we've now been given a load of stats that show that we were basically right all along.
Yeah, conclusive proof.
Yeah.
Look, I mean, I think there is this rather touching but unbelievably naive liberal fantasy that all cohorts, all cultures, all nationalities behave in exactly the same way. And they don't. Some cultures, some nationalities, we can see from these statistics, this particularly about sex crimes, have a much higher propensity to commit those crimes. Just a fact. And you can speculate on the causes of that, what the cultural sort of backdrop is to that might encourage it, but it is a fact. And I would have thought that if you could therefore derive from that, that our approach and policy to immigration should be different to different cohorts. That if, for example, you're from one of these nationalities that seem to have a high propensity to commit crime, well, then perhaps the criteria for getting in are a bit harder than it would be from a country with a low criteria. By the way, you might apply the same thing to gender, I should say. I bet nearly all of these crimes have been committed by men, virtually none by women. But nevertheless, I think you can have different strokes for different folks. And that, however, cuts to the quick of this liberal internationalist fantasy.
One of the things we were especially told that wasn't happening was the idea that in some cultures, like in Afghanistan, women, or girls, as it turns out, are just property. Really, and that we were told, oh, no, that won't happen over here. Well, it has happened now. It's happened explicitly in the case today in Scotland where a fully grown Afghan man raped a 15-year-old schoolgirl and then basically said he didn't think he'd done anything wrong and that back home that would have been all right. So we've imported these kind of problems again, haven't we, there?
You have. You've got cultural differences. People didn't want to talk about that before. And we know in different cultures, different countries, women aren't equal. They're not treated, women don't have the rights that they have here, and they've been, as you say, treated as property. I think that wall of denial, that make-believe, is finally crumbling. In fact, that's one thing that Baroness Casey said. Denial was rife everywhere, in charities, in the political establishment, in courts, in prosecutions, and actually, thank goodness, the scales have fallen from people's eyes, and we can now analyse it. It was Dominic Raab, not so long ago, wanted to start doing this sort of data on nationality, and everybody called him a racist, and he couldn't do it, and he didn't. And we as the Conservative Party then didn't have the strength to fight that cause through. But I think times have changed rapidly.
Well, they have, and OK, if the right thing gets done in the end, then fair enough. But there's a load of people on those Labour benches, Nina, who will have been calling everyone racist for daring to use the term Pakistani rape gangs, even though that's a thing, who would have been called racist for pointing out that maybe that hotel full of Afghan men might lead to some of the local schoolgirls being harassed, or that foreign men are statistically more likely to rape and commit sexual assaults than Brits. Well, they're in power now, the facts are out, and they need to do something about it. How can we trust them?
They are. Well, remember that it was actually Keir Starmer, the much maligned Keir Starmer, who called for Baroness Casey to do this review. He asked her to do it in January.
Yeah. So it's because at the time she didn't actually, and he didn't think she was going to say have a national inquiry. She's actually said during the course of doing
and
this,
to be
she
fair,
changed her mind.
He has taken exactly what she said. He didn't have to call for her to do a review in January.
He wasn't expecting that conclusion, though.
No, never mind whether he expected it or not. You asked what he's going to do. He is following what she's said. And Esther, you say, oh, we didn't have the strength. So we had 14 years where the Tories did sod all, basically, about A, the grooming gangs, B, the nationality breakdown. And so
well, actually, can I just stop you right there? Because Rishi Sunak brought in the task force that protected 4,000 young girls and actually arrested and prosecuted over 800 men. So you're talking rubbish there.
No,
let's just put that into
about
context.
Before Rishi Sunak, I'm talking about between 2010 and
Nina, you're right. The last Conservative government... Nina, you are right. You are right. The last Conservative government, I agree with you, was far too politically correct. I'm glad we're on the same page there.
OK.
The thing is, this comes from lack of integration. This, you talk about... It's not integration.
But everyone was called racist for pointing that out.
No.
Near where I grew up, you could see it happening. You could see it happening all around you, and you weren't allowed to say anything about it.
When there's a lack of integration. And
it's not integration.
This
isn't integration. It's education. It's different cultures.
Education. With integration comes education. But if you get pockets of races with their own culture and with their own habits and their own language and not learning English, that is completely wrong.
People didn't want to admit there were cultural differences.
Exactly right.
And the truth is there is. No, they didn't want to admit it.
And we've imported a lot of people who think that young white girls are at the bottom of the chain, don't we?
Exactly right. We have imported crime. There's no two ways about it.
And put it this way. It's only...
proof positive in these numbers.
Look, it was only last week when I think it was Tim Montgomery wanted to have a national inquiry into the rape gangs. And what did the Labour front bench? They called it was a dog whistle. Shouldn't be doing a far-right bang. It's literally been in the last couple of days that Keir Starmer has been forced into a U-turn. He didn't know he was doing it. He didn't want... That's why he hasn't said anything. He's been out the country.
Surely now, Mark, surely this has to be part of the conversation now when we're talking about legal immigration and asylum and everything that's coming across the channel. We have to have this conversation about sexual assaults and whether or not actually does this not make it even more of a national emergency now?
Yes, and as I say, I think we've got to have the courage to treat different cohorts differently. Is that straightforward? And as I say, the sort of universal human rights, liberal utopia, you can't possibly contemplate that. But the reality, the facts, show you have to. Different cohorts, different nationalities, possibly different genders, need to be treated differently because of the risk.
I also like to point out, these are male crimes. These are not female crimes.
Yeah. And men should be treated differently to women, probably.
Grooming gangs, these girls were let down because they were regarded as little slags, basically, by everyone. And that comes from school teachers, from social workers to the police and everything. This is wrong. This is absolutely wrong.
That.
And we have to take that.
Well, then, I will add into that. There was a class difference there. These girls were white, working class, and they thought, they can't... Exactly. There was all kinds that went into that. And who then was the lowest of the low was white, working class girls.
But is this not the end of this fantasy of multiculturalism?
It should be. I think it is. It should be.
now when someone goes, diversity is our greatest strength, whether it's the Metropolitan Police releasing that statement or Sadiq Khan releasing that statement.
Charles.
Or King Charles.
They're all wrong.
Exactly. Well, King Charles doesn't have to come into contact with that much diversity, does he?
Stay out of politics.
Doesn't live a huge distance away from Edgware Road. Maybe do well to walk up and down it every now and again. But the police, for the police to say, hang on a second, Nina, for the police to say diversity is our greatest strength, and we've got the crime stats out that prove that it isn't, they need to stop saying it, don't they?
The point is, these people are already here. You cannot actually.
If only there was a solution.
Hundreds of there has to be. There has to. Thank goodness we have to work and make it work. You can't just say.
Nina, for the first time, people have now said there are cultural differences. Let's seize the moment, right? Let's put the steps in place. These people cannot keep coming into the country. You do need Rwanda, you need a deterrent, you need stop it. And the people who are here, I tell you, prosecute them and get rid of them.
You cannot deport hundreds of thousands of people.
You start deporting foreign nationals when they've committed a crime.
Deport.
What I would also like to point out...
Patrick, your point, I think, is bang on right. It is, anyone who says diversity is our greatest strength is simply wrong. You might like diversity, you may consider it one feature of the UK that you like, but to seriously believe diversity is the greatest strength we have in the UK is nonsense.
From these ghastly facts that the whole of society is...
You can extrapolate out the truth now. We've now got the facts. This is logical. They are the truth.
What I'd like to point out also is, while we're concentrating this, what I want to point out that the percentage of rape convictions in this country is absolutely scandalous. It is 2%. Which is just horrendous, and that's something. And besides
this means this figures could be worse.
We are breeding our own generation of rapists, while parents have lost control of their children through social media. Young boys are being exposed to porn and growing up with values that Andrew Tate espouses. So we are.
But Nina, all of those are problems, but they're different problems. What this report shows is foreign nationals are twice as likely as Brits to commit these crimes.
We are breeding a generation of young British boys
who will have the same attitudes as foreign...
Where's the feminism,
Nina, all I want to say is you can have both of these things can be true. Let's not merge them.
But seriously, come on, where is... why are feminists so quiet about this? Where are they?
About it.
Because they are. I think they are, because I think for them, they keep quiet about it because actually being pro-multiculturalism is more important than being feminist. These stats of rape against women and girls are devastating. Where are all the left-wing feminists? Where are they?
There is a priority of political correctness, of what you can say, what you can't, where you place people. And for a long period of time, you're quite right, all of these sort of left-wing, sort of liberal elite did not want to talk about this. What I'm saying now is...
left-wing, right-wing did it too.
No, to be fair, no, they didn't. So what they got called, Nina, and they were until last week, they were not... They were called far right. They were extremists. They were racist. They were...
And many of them are.
Well, that's exactly why people weren't saying it. You've absolutely just let yourself down there, Nina. You have.
There are many of them who are far right.
No, they're not.
That wasn't the claim, though, Nina, was it? That was not the Prime Minister's claim. The Prime Minister's claim was that people calling for a national inquiry were jumping on a far-right bandwagon. That was his claim.
Politicians.
But it's outrageous.
Absolutely.
They're not jumping on a far-right bandwagon. They're calling for a national inquiry. Thank God that Keir Starmer has now got on this bandwagon himself.
Thankfully, Baroness Casey has now agreed, caught him by surprise, and agreed with it. So obviously she's not far right, is she?
She's not far right, I think it's fair to say.
He instantly took exactly what she said. You can't just say
instantly, but begrudgingly, one it suspects.
You can't just say the Tories are perfect and
nobody said that.
right wing are correct and left wing is wrong. That's exactly what you're saying.
We did not say the Tories are perfect, did we, Nina?
We've got to go, I'm afraid. Right, thank you very much. Massive gear change now, of course. This could be your best summer ever. 54,321 quid in cold, hard, tax-free cash. You've got to be in it to win it.
We're kick-starting summer in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 with your chance to win our biggest cash prize to date, as there's an incredible £54,321 in tax-free cash to be won. What would you spend it on? A brand new car, the holiday of a lifetime, or just the chance to sit back, relax and remove some of those day-to-day financial stresses? £54,321 in tax-free cash has to be won. For a chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
So, coming up, all of tomorrow's newspaper front pages. Apparently, President Trump has just entered the Situation Room. So, does that mean that he is, in fact, about to blow up the Ayatollah? But what's going on here?
Please don't do this. Allow us to march to Gaza.
I'll tell you, there's more of that, but lots more of that. But yes, we are going to be talking about this next.
I mean, you don't know that I'm going to even do it. You don't know. I may do it. I may not do it. I mean, nobody knows what I'm going to do.
I think he's going to do it because just seconds ago, this is the breaking news. President Trump has approved plans to attack Iran and has now entered the Situation Room. So watch this space. When I come back, I've got the former head of the British Army on, who's going to tell us everything we need to know. So don't go anywhere.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Well, in the past few minutes, Meghan Markle has paid a sweet tribute to Princess Lilibet as she turns 4 today. It comes just a day after the Duchess of Sussex said she'd love to go into business with her daughter in the future.
Well, that's all it is, another money-making effort there. That's to make up for nobody buying her jam. I mean, do you really care if you see a picture of her kid or not? You do, that's it.
I'd like to see her face, to be honest.
I don't. Now, back to Diana, of course, who was the real star and style icon and whatever. And one day I can remember I complimented her on her outfit that she was wearing, and it was the same colour as the outfit you were wearing yesterday.
Bottle green?
No. RUC green, Royal Ulster Constabulary green. As she pointed out to me, she said, yes, RUC green, what do you think? And then she went into a whole, literally, sob story. She started crying about a bomb explosion that had been in Northern Ireland or whatever. She was very, very close, very connected with all of that. But, yeah, so...
And knowledgeable as well, by the sounds of things.
She was very knowledgeable, yeah. And then she went on to talk about William and Harry going to school and how that upset her, and they went to boarding school or whatever it is. So we talked about all those things. And I forgot why I was going to tell you that story, but there was some reason. But she was... it was the same colour as what you were wearing yesterday, anyway, the green.
Oh, and she was so lovely by the sounds of things.
She was film star status. I mean, you just saw her in a room and you would go...
Wow.
She's special, yeah, she's special.
And I think whoever that was speaking in that report there saying, one of the designers, I think it was the designer of the wedding dress, saying it was just clothes or just a dress, but then Diana wore it and then it was something special. Absolutely. And it became part of history. And that's exactly what happened.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christies tonight. Well, breaking in the last few moments. According to the American newspaper The Wall Street Journal, President Trump has approved plans to attack Iran, but is holding off on giving the final order just to see if Tehran rows back on its nuclear programme. I'm also giving you some news that is coming out in the last few minutes. Apparently, about 18 minutes ago, Iran launched more ballistic missiles at Israel. You're watching the Tel Aviv skyline here, all quiet at the moment. It does appear that Israel has pretty much near total supremacy over the Iranian skies, which maybe means that we will never see those missiles. However, there is a concern there. And in the last few moments, I have got reports that President Trump has entered a Situation Room meeting on Iran. So we'll have to wait and see what comes out of that. But earlier today, President Trump was keeping everyone on tenterhooks.
I mean, you don't know that I'm going to even do it. You don't know. I may do it. I may not do it. I mean, nobody knows what I'm going to do. I can tell you this, that Iran's got a lot of trouble, and they want to negotiate. And I said, why didn't you negotiate with me before? All this death. And it's very sad to watch this. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. Nothing's finished until it's finished. You know, war is very complex. A lot of bad things can happen.
So the Iranians responded to that by saying they would not be, quote, grovelling at the gates of the White House. But the US have the weaponry capable to eliminate Iran's suspected nuclear facilities in the shape of their bunker buster bombs that can infiltrate 61 metres of concrete before exploding. It's remarkable, isn't it? Meanwhile, here in the UK, the Prime Minister chaired an urgent Cobra meeting this afternoon discussing how to respond if the United States were to ask for support in striking Iran. So, have we today edged closer to joining the war in the Middle East? Well, I'm hoping one man who knows is the former head of the British Army. It's Lord Richard Dannett. Thank you very much. Tremendous to see you. OK, well, first things first, then. Do you think President Trump and Israel are going to kill the Ayatollah?
Well, that's a very specific question. I mean, I think as far as what Donald Trump has said, and there is a kind of code amongst international leaders that they don't kill each other. I think he has been threatening the Ayatollah, but I think I'd be very surprised, not by much else, but I'd be very surprised if Donald Trump was to authorize an operation to kill the Ayatollah. I think that's a very different issue to whether the Americans might join with the Israelis to destroy finally Iran's nuclear weapon capability. I think that's a very open question, and just what you're reporting in the last few minutes indicates that there seems to be quite a probability that the US will join Israel in carrying out that operation.
Just on that then, are we absolutely certain that Iran doesn't already have a nuclear bomb?
I think all the international experts would agree, and investigations carried out and inspections carried out over the years, that at this moment in time they do not have a nuclear bomb. If they did, I think the issue would be a very, very different one. I think the issue has always been to contain their development of nuclear energy capability to make sure that they did not develop a nuclear weapon. And I think at this stage in time, they do not have one.
OK, should Britain follow the US and Israel if indeed they do decide to try to bomb Iran's nuclear facilities and various other locations as well?
I think that's a separate issue. I think if Donald Trump decides to support the Israelis and make available his massive ordnance device, the device that could penetrate 200 feet of concrete and then explode, then that's a decision for the US. Whether the UK and the French and others will support that operation in some shape or form is a very different issue. And I think that should be separated quite carefully. Hitherto, the UK has supported the United States and Israel in defending themselves, not recently, but in recent times, from Iran's attacks on Israel. That's a separate issue. We also have to think about the security of our own bases in Cyprus, the security of our carrier strike group that's somewhere between here and the Indo-Pacific. So there are local national security issues that we need to keep
I want to ask you about something that keeps rearing its head, because we keep being told that our military actually is a bit knackered, and we've tried to do things like Trident missile launches and they've plopped into the ocean. We've been told we haven't got the manpower for a variety of different things. So even if we wanted to, could we really support the US in Israel?
Only in a very modest way. I mean, to be absolutely honest, I mean, you're raising huge questions there. We've just had a strategic defence review, 62 recommendations. We then had a spending review and virtually no more money put into defence. So I'm afraid our government is talking the talk, but is not walking the walk. And if we want to be serious about being prepared to be involved in a major local, regional or international war, we're not really there.
No, you mentioned their defence spending, and you've reminded me of something I saw earlier this morning, that apparently the Prime Minister is going to include rural broadband as part of the defence budget. That, of course, on top of all of the money that we're lobbing over to the Mauritians for the privilege of them taking the Chagos Islands off us. So you're not particularly impressed with the defence budget, I take it?
I think what you've just described I would call cloud cuckoo land. I mean, if we're going to be serious about our defence, we need to increase our GDP spend from 2.5 to 2.6, which is going to 3% by the end of this Parliament, that's 2029, and to 3.5% by 2034, the end of the next Parliament. That's what NATO is calling for. That's what all the defence experts require that we need. And frankly, if this government is serious about protecting the people of this country, forget HS2, forget the NHS, forget all the wonderful things that we enjoy. If we want to enjoy our peace and security and way of life, 3.5% of GDP to be spent on defence by 2034 is the minimum. That should be the objective of any serious government in this country now.
Are you concerned, as the former head of the British Army, that if we were to join in some kind of skirmishes in Iran, that Iran might then attack us on our home soil, so physically in Britain, not so much our bases elsewhere or ships elsewhere, physically here in Britain, but also that there might be an undercurrent of people that we've welcomed into Britain who might actually turn out to be a little bit more pro-Iranian regime than pro-Britain?
Yeah, no, we're in a very hybrid situation. Of course, having disaffected people within our own population is quite possible. I think it is also quite possible that President Putin might decide, with America very taken up with what's going on in the Middle East, keeping an eye on the Indo-Pacific, that he might push against not just Ukraine, which he currently is, but he might test the resolve of NATO. He might push at some stage in the near future into one of the Baltic states to see whether Article 5 of the NATO treaty, that an attack on one nation is an attack on all, will actually be honoured. I think there are many big security issues that need to be thought through very carefully, and I would like to think, brackets, I hope, our government is taking these things seriously.
Well, thank you very much for your time this evening. It's Lord Richard Dannett there, who's the former head of the British Army. We're looking at the skyline above Tel Aviv. All quiet at the moment, even though supposedly about, well, what would it be now, about 25 minutes ago now, probably Iran is reported to have launched ballistic missiles back at Israel again. President Trump, we believe, is in the Situation Room. What does that really mean? Are we going to see a bit of action there tonight or not? But coming up, bringing the very first look at tomorrow's newspaper front pages, apparently there's some more breaking news on the front of the Telegraph. Pakistan is refusing to take back the vile leaders of the Rochdale grooming gang. Stay tuned.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
The heat wave across Portugal, Spain and France is going to continue to build for the next couple of days. We're looking at temperatures in the mid to high 30s, possibly 40 Celsius for a few places. And with that heat, there's a risk of some hefty showers across Portugal and Spain. Some thundery downpours are possible. A few showers also possible further east, affecting Italy and into Greece and Turkey. But actually, through the outlook period, as we go towards the weekend, it's looking largely sunny for many and staying pretty hot.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Good evening. I'm here with your latest GB News weather update, coming to you from the Met Office. We are now in a heat wave, and we're going to continue to see these heat wave conditions for some lingering right through the weekend. It's all because, well, high pressure is across us at the moment, and that's bringing a lot of sunshine for many places, and that's leading to some pretty high temperatures of building. But taking a look as we go through tonight, and there's a bit more cloud across some parts of Scotland, central into northern Scotland as well, with a little bit of drizzly rain across far western parts. Away from this, though, lots of clear skies and lots of dry weather to be had, and temperatures not dropping a huge amount, so it is going to be a particularly warm night for many places, some places holding up in the high teens Celsius. So it is going to be a fine start to the day for most, and across the bulk of England and Wales, a sunny start, just a bit of cloud towards some eastern parts of England first thing. Heading further north and across Northern Ireland and Northern England, lots of sunshine here through the morning. Meanwhile, for Scotland, a cloudier picture here, particularly across central and western parts, a bit of rain at times. Meanwhile, across the north, away from Orkney and Shetland, where there will be a few showers, many parts of northern and eastern Scotland having a bright start. But that cloud across central parts of Scotland does feed a little bit further northwards, so northern and eastern parts turning a bit cloudier as we go through the afternoon. Elsewhere and across the rest of the country, well, it is looking largely sunny, and with that sunshine, temperatures rising a few degrees higher than today. We're looking at highs of around 30 Celsius for some places, so feeling pretty hot indeed. With that hot weather, though, there's the risk of some showers, and these are going to affect some western parts as we go through Friday. Can't rule out a bit of thunder, but most of us will avoid these showers, particularly towards the north and east, where it should stay dry and pretty bright, if not sunny. We have higher temperatures forecast for many as we go into the weekend, particularly across central and eastern parts, peaking around 32 or 33.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camila Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camila Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Oh, hello. Welcome back to Patrick Christies tonight. We're going to first look at tomorrow's newspaper front pages. Let's start with the Metro. Middle East on the brink. Armageddon. No, you're not looking at exactly the same front page from probably this time last year, the year before, or the year before that. It is, in fact, tomorrow's. And Iran's leader, Ali Khamenei, threatens irreparable harm to the US if warplanes strike. We'll have to watch this space, because apparently Iran did fire at Israel not so long ago. The next paper we're doing now is The Eye. OK, UK tries to delay NATO 5% defence pledge as Trump threatens defiant Iranian leader. Was ourselves on. The next one we've got here is the Daily Telegraph. Hermo, who's our Attorney General, war on Iran may be illegal. Oh, fantastic. Good stuff. Our Attorney General's found his niche again.
Unbelievable.
Saying that things that we might want to do as a democratic country are probably actually illegal. The controversial Attorney General warns that Prime Minister that Britain must limit its role in protecting its allies. And Sir Keir Starmer has been warned that the UK involvement in a US attack on Iran could in fact be illegal. There's also a story here which is one we're going to come back to. Rochdale grooming gang cannot be deported, and that's because Pakistan are refusing to take them back. Let's just stop on the front pages now. Let's zone in on that, because we'll talk about this now. And we can do some more of your front pages a bit later on. Let's go on. The Rochdale grooming gang cannot be deported. So Pakistan, Mark, is refusing to take back the ringleaders of the Rochdale grooming gang scandal. This is Qari Abdul Rauf and Adil Khan.
Yeah. So here's the problem from what I can gather here. I'm not a legal expert on this, but this seems yet another flaw in the basic legal system, that if you are from country X and we want to send you back there, and you suddenly say, well, I'm renouncing my citizenship of country X, then you can't send them back there because they're rendered stateless. So, how are you ever going to get somebody back to Pakistan if the individual says, no, actually, I've just burnt my passport, I've renounced my citizenship. So we've got to find a way around this legal loophole. Another thing worth picking up there, Patrick, talk about how slowly do the wheels of justice move. The pair lost their appeals against deportation in 2018.
Yeah.
I mean, this is 7 years later.
But don't you also think as well, I mean, we hear that they say, oh, it's going to be extremely difficult. And then you see, actually, there's a little bit of hardball going on here. Pakistani sources suggest restoring direct flights. So what you're saying is, I think lots of governments around the world are thinking we're a soft touch. They think this Labour government's a soft touch. They think Herma, the Attorney General, is a soft touch. And so they're saying, well, unless you do X, Y, Z, we won't be doing A, B and C.
There's no question of us using that leverage, sorry, Ash, but is that of us saying, well, hang on a minute, we offer how many visas to Pakistan every single year?
But exactly, Patrick, and that's what they need to be doing. They need to be looking at, well, what other influences can we do, whether that's foreign aid, whether that's visa, whatever it is. But they are going back. They are your citizens. They are criminals. And again, I always said you needed to keep Rwanda, you needed a third country, because it was precisely for that.
To deal with these.
If they ripped up their passport...
What do we do about these grooming?
If you ripped up your passport, you could go to a third country.
Places for only 300 people. Once you've taken a plane load, and then what? What I wanted to point out was the fact that the Home Office has actually deported at least 3 other named Pakistani child rapists in the last 9 months. So they are having some success. They're having
3.
Well, it's better than none, to be fair.
We're talking about 2. This is 3 have already gone back. So they're saying they're actually discussing it, and sources indicated that progress was being made. So it's not that they're sitting back and saying, well, la, we don't care about it.
I just wonder if these 2 stories on the front page are in a way linked, because one of them names Lord Herma, who's our Attorney General, Keir Starmer's tremendous mate, of course. And the other quote here is...
Colleague.
It would be... Well, he's literally his mate.
His friend,
It would be extremely difficult to take back the criminals, as there is no basis to accept them. That basis, one would imagine, is in international law, which our Attorney General wouldn't let us really do.
Are we going to have to look through his past clients to see if we've got connections yet again?
If I must, Esther, if I must.
You know very well, like a surgeon, a lawyer, a barrister takes cases not on political grounds or because they support
Actually, they found that isn't the case. You got that wrong again. It isn't the case if it's actually been given on legal aid.
Question of legal aid.
OK, all right. We've just got to say we're going to return to the front pages, of course, and do them really proper justice at 11 p.m. until midnight. But this was the moment the Egyptian police blocked hundreds of pro-Palestine activists who were attempting to march to Gaza, right? These included this rather impassioned Welsh chap.
Please don't do this. Allow us to march to Gaza. We're peaceful people, we're good people, we're Muslims, we're Christians, we're atheists, we're Jews. We are humanity. We are here for humanity. What are you here for? You don't have to do this, you don't have to follow the orders. Please, I'll go onto my knees and I will beg you. Allow us to march to Palestine.
Wants to go to Palestine.
Shame on you for laughing at a man who is so passionate about humanity and about wanting to help the situation there.
I think he's an idiot.
Or whatever you may well think of. But he is entirely sincere in what he wants to do. People watch television and see you cannot...
But isn't it interesting that what they've just done there is that they've actually inadvertently shown that maybe it's not all Israel's fault, because they are at the Egyptian side. And the Egyptians are not letting them in. That's quite revealing, isn't it?
That doesn't mean to say that it's right that Israel we should have withdrawn food and water.
Well, Israel say that they haven't done that.
But they did withdraw food and water for weeks.
Nina, you're right
end.
that this guy's passionate, but he's also pretty bonkers, isn't he? Because
I think he's a man of principle.
How is he actually going to bring about any change if he does get to Gaza? Has he got tankers full of water and food, or is he? Or do you suspect this might just be a bit of virtue signalling? Because I think it's that.
I think when you're that passionate, you're not virtue signalling. You really believe what you say.
Exactly what's he going to do when he gets there?
You can scoff, but what are you doing?
What am I doing? What does he do when he gets there?
You cannot fake pictures of starving children.
Yeah, but
you can fake all sorts of other things, but you can't.
Who's he going to save?
He doesn't know, but he wants to try.
He doesn't know, yeah.
He wants to try something.
He wants to
He's
try
desperate.
something.
I think that's entirely commendable.
Well, so the wider story here is that more than 4,000 activists from more than 80 countries set off for Gaza last week, but they were met with a hostile reaction from the Egyptian authorities. They claim they were attacked, forced onto buses and then deported from Egypt. So, I mean, this is the thing, isn't it? It's almost like some other Muslim countries there don't really like what's going on in Gaza.
No, but, quite right they don't. And the Egyptian police have acted very sensibly, I would have said, actually, in this scenario.
Well, there we go. Anyway, so, right, coming up, the rest of tomorrow's newspaper front pages, the Prime Minister is reportedly weighing up joining President Trump in strikes on Iran. But is that a good idea? Stay tuned.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. That's State of the Nation every Monday and Tuesday at 8 o'clock, only on GB News, the People's Channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
It's been a long old time now. Other missing cases. How do we prioritise that? Despite obviously, Madeleine McCann being one of the most high-profile mysteries of my lifetime, for sure. I think I think you're right to point out though that if there is even the remotest of chances that. Because sometimes an individual case can symbolise and mean something more in the public consciousness than in isolation. And I think this is such a case. It's something that I think people still deeply care about. So if there's any remote chance, I think they've got to go for it.
Well, let's hope something is found. These searches, as we know, are going to continue until Friday, unless, of course, fresh evidence is found, in which case they will continue.
I take it all sort of quite personally because we holidayed in the area. I had children the same age at the time, and there used to be posters in the airport, asking, have you seen this girl and whatever. And my kids were very aware of it, and you'd point out and talk about it and whatever. So I often think it could have been as easily one of my children involved in all of this, and you do take it personally.
And I think a lot of people in the country would feel that way. It's in the nation's psyche, isn't it, Madeleine McCann?
Yeah.
We all know her, we know her face, we feel as though we know her as a little girl. I think everybody would like to have answers as to what happened to her.
Right, OK, so the Portuguese police are saying about this, the search warrant was issued by the Public Prosecutor's Office in Germany, which is conducting preliminary proceedings against a German citizen suspected of the murder of a British citizen, Madeleine McCann.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
OK, 4 front pages for you now. The Independent. I may do it, I may not. Whoa, whoa, will I kill the Ayatollah? Won't I kill the Ayatollah? President Trump making his mind up. Let's go to the Daily Mirror. PIP cuts a catastrophe. 800,000 set to suffer as universal credit and carers allowances is also here. Fury at Labour's welfare reforms. Let's go to The Guardian. They've got the same story as The Independent. I may do it, I may not. So there we go. And let's go to The Times. Britain could support US to strike Iran from the air. So that's something. Apparently there was a Cobra meeting today as well. So the Prime Minister is weighing that up. And do you not feel particularly strongly about any of these stories, really? I mean, I suppose the...
Well, I guess that one is you know, and what was the support that the UK was giving, and that was British military sources believe the US may want to use the Diego Garcia base in the Chagos Islands, and that's the support they were doing. Americans are saying, actually, it's our sovereign control. We need to use that. They need that base because that is the aircraft carrier that can do those big sort of bombing missions, and that goes back to the whole point, as we were giving them away, our islands, for 30 billion quid. It shows the nonsense. And Lord Hermer's back in here, the Attorney General, now saying, raising concerns, how far they can get involved in the conflict. He says, they limit it to defensive support. So, again, Hermer, in my mind, needs to go.
If this bloke had been around in 1939,
he needs to go.
We would have had the legal ability to attack Nazi Germany, wouldn't we? Not a prayer.
Is he a problem, do you think, Lord Hermer, this guy?
No, I don't see why he is a problem. He is a lawyer and he's being asked to adjudicate things as a lawyer. He's a very good lawyer and let him do that.
In fairness, the law's the problem as much as the Attorney General.
He's interpreting the law. But Diego Garcia, the reason, as I said last week, is that it was advantageous for the Americans that we have Diego Garcia. And definitely, because there would have been, if we hadn't done this, there would have been constant challenges to the fact that we don't own them, didn't own them, and had no right to them.
It's amazing we couldn't even give it away, isn't it? I mean, they had to give them 30 billion as a sweetener to take it.
Now that we had to pay for them, then we did.
No, we didn't. Well, why? They were only advisory. They were only advisory that came through, and you didn't need to do it.
Why was David Cameron so hot in there?
No, he didn't. He stopped it.
Oh, he negotiated.
No, he didn't. He stopped it. You got your facts wrong again.
You've got to stop listening to these ludicrous international
we're
courts.
From one slightly awkward situation to another.
Go on.
Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer endured a series of blunders when meeting the South Korean president at the G7 summit earlier this week. So he first mistook an interpreter for the leader and then awkwardly lingered for a photo op. Shall we have a look at this?
Okay. In the middle, please.
On that, I mean, his advisors on that need to be taken aside. He should have known who the person was. He should know where he was going to stand. That was an embarrassment. And actually, in that regard, that is his support and advisors.
It's not his fault. I mean, he's not...
No, the Prime Minister of the UK should be perfectly choreographed by his team. If he's ambling around not knowing which way's up, a good number of people on his team have let him down.
Could I just say maybe he could be man enough to not be pushed and pulled around by a Korean interpreter? If he could just hang on a minute, I'm going to stand here.
Yeah, well,
maybe there is that, isn't there?
The South Korean president was obviously very clear that he wanted to be photographed alone, but that wasn't what Keir Starmer presumably had been told.
I don't think anybody was at all clear in that couple of minutes.
So what was he going to do? You know, he said, no, I'm going to be here, I'm going to stand here because I want to be in this photo. No, come on.
Look,
we could have been inclined to do that.
Yeah, whoever, and who knows what sort of, I don't know, recruitment process he does, and if it's all about sort of political correct recruitment process when really he needed a good person for that job, who was going to get him in the right place at the right time. That was a very poor assistant.
Smoothly, all of that choreography.
Well, we actually have a huge variety on the front pages of tomorrow's national newspapers, from things like the Pakistanis refusing to take back members of their own grooming gangs that have been raping kids here in Britain, to the potential for World War III, to benefits bill is on course to rocket by £18 billion a year. It is all to play for. I'm going to be doing it in Patrick Christys Tonight, late edition. It runs from 11 p.m. all the way through to midnight. I've got a top panel on there as well, including, as ever, one former headliner. But who will it be? You'll have to wait and see. Won't you? Stay tuned.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good evening. I'm here with your latest GB News weather update, coming to you from the Met Office. We are now in a heat wave, and we're going to continue to see these heat wave conditions for some lingering right through the weekend. It's all because, well, high pressure is across us at the moment, and that's bringing a lot of sunshine for many places, and that's leading to some pretty high temperatures of building. But taking a look as we go through tonight, and there's a bit more cloud across some parts of Scotland, central into northern Scotland as well, with a little bit of drizzly rain across far western parts. Away from this, though, lots of clear skies and lots of dry weather to be had, and temperatures not dropping a huge amount, so it is going to be a particularly warm night for many places, some places holding up in the high teens Celsius. So it is going to be a fine start to the day for most, and across the bulk of England and Wales, a sunny start, just a bit of cloud towards some eastern parts of England first thing. Heading further north and across Northern Ireland and Northern England, lots of sunshine here through the morning. Meanwhile, for Scotland, a cloudier picture here, particularly across central and western parts, a bit of rain at times. Meanwhile, across the north, away from Orkney and Shetland, where there will be a few showers, many parts of northern and eastern Scotland having a bright start. But that cloud across central parts of Scotland does feed a little bit further northwards, so northern and eastern parts turning a bit cloudier as we go through the afternoon. Elsewhere and across the rest of the country, well, it is looking largely sunny, and with that sunshine, temperatures rising a few degrees higher than today. We're looking at highs of around 30 Celsius for some places, so feeling pretty hot indeed. With that hot weather, though, there's the risk of some showers, and these are going to affect